I remember when she passed, our whole family would have to get together and practice the ceremony for the offering of the incense and everything. And one day we were all doing that, and I remember I went outside and I saw like butterflies flying around, and I was like talking to the sky. Like I literally remember being this little baby and like talking to God and saying, you know, you can bring my grandmother back. Like, it's okay. I won't be scared. Like, if she falls from the sky, blah, 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 blah. And then I saw two butterflies go by, and I was kind of like, something about that moment kind of made me feel like, oh, okay, she's here.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every single one of you that come back every week to listen, learn, and grow. Now, I'm really looking forward to this next conversation because it's with someone who's been pouring their heart into making music about meditation, making it an opportunity for revelation in our own lives, and making it about healing. Today, I'm talking with Jhene Aiko about the sound healing and creative intention she pours into her music. Jhene is a 6-time Grammy-nominated R&B performer, and in addition to her music career, she's a Barnes & Noble best-selling author and mother. Her new album, Chilombo, is absolutely phenomenal. It's a work of art, and it's truly been the album of the year of helping people this year get through their struggle, their pain, and their challenges. And I'm so glad to have this conversation and share this space with her right now. I want to start with asking you probably something totally random, but I saw the other day you posted something on Instagram, which is where we connected, and you posted adventure in your caption. And then you were like, what looked like next to an unearthed tree. Or it was like this crazy background. Can you tell us about what that place was?
Yeah, so I was in Point Lobos, which is in Carmel. I think they call it the Central Coast. It's like up the California coast. It was like a hiking trail. And literally, while I was walking, I was looking at the roots. And I've been like obsessed with roots lately, like actual roots of trees and my own personal roots as well. And I saw them coming out while we were walking on the trail. And they were so smooth and shiny and strong. And I was just like, wow. And then we just came upon this, like you said, it looked like almost like a tree had gotten like ripped from the ground and all the roots were exposed. And they were like, it was like a wall of roots. And I was just like, wow, this is cool. And I took a picture just of it. And then my boyfriend was like, do you want to be in the picture? I actually didn't I just wanted a picture of that. But then I was like, okay, cool. And so, yeah, that's what it was. And I just thought it looked really cool. Yeah.
It did. It looked amazing. I caught my eye straight away, and I couldn't wait to ask you about it because it looked like an incredible experience. And I'm more fascinated now because of what you just said of your fascination with roots. Tell us about both your fascination with the roots of trees, but then tell us about your own roots as well and what formed you into who you are.
The past maybe 3-4 years, I have been studying my family history. And I feel like most of us sort of we only know what our parents and grandparents have told us. And, you know, some families, they do have more information about, you know, the family and the roots and like where everyone comes from. But my family is from all over. And I just remember hearing so many different things. You know, like I said, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I really want to figure out for myself, you know, and really study my family history. And so I did the DNA thing on Ancestry.com. And the results were like, what? Like these were, you know, like, it was things I didn't know that I had that, the results basically, I didn't know a lot of that information. So within that site, they take you to different records of the people in your family. And then it just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper. And so those roots, I, of course, got super intrigued by, and I just felt more of myself, you know, learning about and seeing pictures of, these relatives that I knew nothing about, and even more so, they pull up people that share your DNA. And so they'll pull, first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, fourth cousin, fifth, sixth. And you see these people and you get to message each other and they all look different, and but then it just, I don't know, it's just such a fulfilling feeling to connect with people that are your family that you didn't know about, and just learn about family. And I think part of me feeling more grounded today is discovering that my roots are so deep and so widespread. And so now when I look at trees and I see the roots, I'm just like, oh, this is like, I'm a tree. And and my family, those are my roots. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's such a grounding feeling.
Yeah.
It's such a centering feeling of realizing that your roots are ancient and old and you've survived and your family's thrived for this long and the amount it's got through. I remember doing the test too, the Ancestry.com test. And I remember finding out I was 77% South Asian, which is what I expected. But then I saw that I was 1% Native American. And that for me was just, I didn't realize that there was any part of me that was from anywhere else. And I agree with you, when I started tracing it too, it's phenomenal to see how interconnected we all are. I don't know if you've heard about one of my monk teachers always talks about the redwood forest and the redwood trees. And I don't know if you've heard about their roots.
No.
So their roots do something really interesting. You've just sparked this. They don't grow down and far. They actually grow across and wide.
Nice.
And they intertwine with other trees. And so the other redwood trees that are like baby redwood trees, they tie up with the big redwood trees. And then all the trees share their nutrients through their roots across the whole network, which I think's...
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So, yeah, your fascination with roots is it's very justified. There's a lot to learn there. But I was speaking to you earlier when we were just chatting briefly before about how you've really been bringing this spiritual energy into your music. And I've really genuinely admired and had so many amazing meditative experiences listening to your work.
Oh, good.
I want to start with, where did your spiritual journey begin? Where did that journey for you kind of ignite before you even thought about bringing it to your music?
My spiritual journey was ignited when I think I was like 4 or 5. Miyoko, do you remember when grandma passed away? Right? I was maybe like 4 or 5, I think. I was really young. And it felt like I had just met her. Maybe, your baby mind the time is a little different. So in my memory is that I just got to know her, maybe like, it was probably, I knew her for like a year, at least in my memory of being, such a young baby person. Didn't get to spend that much time with her, but I fell in love with her immediately. She, this little Japanese lady, she used to let me play with her wrinkles. She didn't speak a lot, very quiet, very just like cute to me. She was like a kitten. And she passed away. And I was just like, And I remember asking my dad, who is a pediatrician, he would always explain things to us in a scientific way. So I'm like, well, where did she go? He's like, well, she went to sleep and she didn't wake back up. And I'm like, okay, so, and then what about like her body? And he was like, they burned her body. And so in my mind, I'm like, they burned her body, huh? So I'm thinking of all of these things. And at the same time, we were preparing for her funeral, which was a Buddhist funeral. And I guess that was my first that was my first funeral for sure, but my first sort of spiritual encounter. And at the same time, my grandmother would take us to Sunday school, to a Christian church. And so I would hear about, how I would hear about praying and praying to Jesus and God. And so I was like, I knew the story of Jesus, and now I'm learning about Buddha, and I'm 5 and my grandmother has passed away, and they said that she's burned, they burned her body. But I'm like, but I don't think that she just went, she's not gone. So just from that moment, I was like almost even fascinated with death, and like, okay, not even necessarily trying to figure it out, but just kind of like, yeah, fascinated is the word. And loss as well. Just, always trying to figure out what different feelings mean. And I remember when she passed, I think one day after, because our whole family would have to get together and practice like the ceremony for the offering of the incense and everything. And one day we were all doing that, and I remember I went outside and I saw like butterflies flying around, and I was like talking to the sky. Like I literally remember being this little baby and like out loud saying like, talking to God and saying, you can bring my grandmother back. Like, it's okay. I won't be scared. Like if she falls from the sky, blah, 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 blah. And then I saw 2 butterflies go by, and I was kind of like, when they flew by, I looked up in the window, and my older cousin was looking at me, talking to myself. And so I was like, oh, okay. But then I saw the butterflies, and something about that moment kind of made me feel like, oh, okay, she's here. She didn't have to like drop out of the sky type of thing. And just from that moment on, I don't know, I've always been contemplative. I've always, when I was little, even I'm the youngest of 5, or I grew up in a household of 4 older siblings. So it was really loud. And most of that time I would just be like observing and just, trying to figure things out, or just staring at things, and just like, I feel like really I was like meditating on them now that I think about it. But yeah, so it really started at that moment.
That was a wonderful story and a wonderful sharing of that experience.
Thank you.
And it's amazing to see how much you remember from when you were that young.
Yeah, that's one of my most vivid memories, and I've written it down a few times throughout my life to see like if it ever, if it changed. But it doesn't. I think that was a real one.
That's wonderful. And I guess, when was it where you started to realize this connection between your spiritual interest in music? Was that always there from the beginning of when you started your music journey, or was that more when you felt a certain level of personal growth and personal confidence in what you were finding?
When I first started my musical journey, I was 12 going on 13, and it was just fun. It was, I was traveling and meeting new people, and it was just more so fun for me. I didn't really start to incorporate my own personal story into my music until I started going through my first little heartbreaks, and then when I had my daughter, by that time I had been through a few things, and I was really focused on putting my real story and my personal story into the music. And as you get older, the more things that you go through. So obviously having my daughter was a spiritual experience. So I started, making songs about that and just my love for her. And then when my brother passed in 2012, that was probably like the most pivotal moment in my life, but also in my, music, because I had so much to express, and it was soul changing. You know what I mean? It was something that really reworked my whole being and my whole perception of life and, family and love and all of these things. And so as I started trying to figure out my emotions and how I felt about losing the closest person to me, I started, like self-medicating and trying to escape and like trying to forget about it. And then obviously I'm like really small and I'm also just really sensitive. And so that took a toll on me for sure, like mentally, physically, spiritually. And having a daughter and watching as she got older, it was, I recognized the responsibility of having, a whole human being that I was really solely responsible for, feeling physically and mentally not all there because of how I had been trying to heal myself with these substances. I realized, okay, that's probably not the best way to get through this. And so, throughout my life, I've read books about meditation and I've, tried it and all these things. But once I got to that point where I really was like, okay, this is like a life or death situation, then I really, really got into it. And, my music is just a reflection of me and what I'm going through at that time. And so, for the past several years, that's what I've been going through, trying to heal and just evolve and ascend and, be my highest form of myself. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answers. Did I stray from the question?
No, you answered it. You answered
okay.
it. I want to be honest with you that sitting here listening to you, it's transforming internally for me. Like it's wonderful to hear you think through and hear about reflecting on pivotal moments in your life, because none of them sound easy, and you're going through them so young. And so to hear you actually share them in this way, I'm hoping that everyone who's listening and watching right now is feeling the same way, that they're feeling like they can reflect on their own life and find how these moments have made them stronger or made them more reflective or more meditative or more introspective. Because as you said, all of these things that are happening are just trying to help us learn something and help us find something more about ourselves.
Right.
And so when I hear you say that it was that moment where meditation became more real for you, what else do you think happened at that moment that you feel like at such a young age you've been able to develop that curiosity, but also resilience and that strength of who you are?
I think a very pivotal moment in my life was, and I don't even remember, I think I was just in a bookstore and I was probably in the astrology section, and right across from it was the Eastern religion. And I saw a Thich Nhat Hanh book, Pieces Every Step. And at that point, I was probably like 17 or 18. And I think I just liked that, that title. And I read it probably in 2 or 3 days. And when I was younger, I used to read books like that. But at that age, 17, I wasn't reading books, especially in 2 or 3 days. And it was so simple, so poetic. And I applied it immediately. And I just felt good. I felt good. I felt happy. And from there on, I would always get his new books and give them to people. And I think with meditation, it was the same thing. When I felt how it made me feel, then I was like, okay, this is something that I want to exercise. I want to practice this because I can feel, physically, mentally, spiritually, everything. I just feel better. The reason why I love Thich Nhat Hanh, he states things so simply that anyone can understand. And the beautiful stories he tells to arrive to the lesson that he's teaching, it just makes it so much more impactful for me. And I love his meditations as well. They're so simple, the red light meditation. Take that moment to breathe into your belly. Things like that have helped me practice more of a meditation as more of a way of living, and not just like meditate every day for this amount of time. It's more like breathing through every moment, difficult or not, and it's something that I'm not perfect at or the best at, or even in the top, percentage of people that are great at it. But it's something that, like I said, as I get older and things get even more real, it comes in handy for sure.
Can you share with our listeners the red light meditation so that they understand it more and then they can apply it too?
Okay, so Thich Nhat Hanh says, instead of viewing it like you're in traffic, you have to understand that you are the traffic. When I read that, I was like, oh, man. And I personally love to drive.
Me too.
I view it as a sort of a meditation, and because I'm just in that moment driving, I'm not thinking of anything, because I'm a really safe driver, and probably a slow driver too. So the red light meditation is every time you arrive at a red light, you come home to yourself. You take that red light as a bell of mindfulness to center yourself, instead of viewing it as, oh, this red light is making me late, and letting it frustrate you. It's a moment to take for yourself and just breathe.
Yeah.
Or that's how I take it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We definitely share a love for Thich Nhat Hanh in a special way. I think he's absolutely phenomenal in the books that he's written, the work that he's done. And that example is a perfect synopsis of why he's so powerful, because it takes a very simple concept in something that we all deal with on a daily basis, and turns it from how we usually view it to something that's so much more profound and meaningful for each and every one of us. And I think that's almost like what all of us need to become, is every day we need to be able to take these very ordinary daily things and turn them into these extraordinary experiences, rather than the other way around. And so, thank you for sharing that. I love that. I hope everyone's going to try that, especially in LA traffic.
Yeah.
I love driving too. So I feel when you said that, I was like, I feel the same way. I can go on a long drive for hours and just feel completely, satisfied and fulfilled, and hit as many red lights as I have to.
Yes, exactly.
And I loved what you said then. By the way, there's no one who's the perfect meditator, or, we're all learning and working and figuring it out. And what I love about meditation is that when you feel you've reached a level, there's just another level. And there's just always this continuous awakening. And I want to talk about how you've put so much intention into your creative expression, because you're not just making music, you're actually creating art to help people heal. I was watching this video on YouTube, and anyone who's listening or watching right now, you can go and check it out. It was your experience. You designed an immersive experience, Wisdom LA.
Yes.
And I loved it because you had everyone like lying down and looking up, and these absolutely phenomenal designs that look like the inside of someone's mind. And then you were playing the sound bowl and the harp and chanting and singing. And I was just like, wow, like this is a healing experience. Tell us about how you came to create that and feel that was how you wanted to share it.
Yes, that was a dream come true that hopefully I can take on tour sooner than later. So when I was probably around the same time I started reading Thich Nhat Hanh, there is this store that my father loves. It's not there anymore, in Santa Monica, but they have, lots of sound bowls, and it's like a spiritual, new age store. And there was a Tibetan singing bowl. I picked it up, started playing it, not to its full sound, I guess, because the owner came up to me like, oh, let me show you how to do it. I'm like, wow. And then I immediately understood what he was saying. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the best feeling ever. Literally, like, I loved the feeling of my wrists going in a circle, and obviously loved the sound and how it was making me feel. So I bought one, and then I kept buying them, and I would just, play them when I was feeling away, or just when I was bored, even just because I loved how they sound and how they make me feel. And fast forward to maybe 5 years ago, my friend Chrissy sent me a picture of this woman with all of these really pretty crystal bowls. And I was like, what? Like, what are these? Because I've seen the big white crystal bowls, but I had never seen them like so iridescent and just like in all these colors and sizes. And so I looked it up and I found the company, and at the same time, have been working on music, and I guess even my album before Chilumbo, I wanted to incorporate more acoustic instruments, live drums, live flute, and I would collect these instruments from like different festivals and different places that I would travel, because I just felt like you could feel them more than the computer sounds. And so I'm already incorporating those into the music. And then now I find these bowls, and I'm just like, duh, like this is what I have to, they're so easy for me to play. And I thought they were easy for everyone to play, but I've actually seen, or have friends try, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh my God, maybe this is my instrument, And so of course, yes, I'm going to put it in the music. So people would always come up to me and let me know, share stories about how my music helped them get through something, or helped them, make a decision, or just, all of these things that felt so much more than just someone saying, oh, like, you're a great singer, or, oh, you're so pretty, or whatever. It would always be, we would like a lot of times end up crying together, because their stories are so like touching to me, and they'll always say your music really helped me. And when I'm creating the music, it's really just to get through what I'm going through, and helping me express myself and transform whatever the feeling is into some type of art, and it's a release for me. So I started to realize that the reason why I'm so compelled to share that is because I think my purpose, or one of my purposes, is to help people deal, to and heal, deal and heal. And when I discovered these crystal sound bowls and started playing them, and then seeing how beautiful they were, I knew I wanted to incorporate it into my live shows. The thing is, they are not just for any type of show, any type of setting. You have to be indoors so that you can, feel the acoustics. Yeah. Exactly. So I was doing a lot of festivals at the time, and then there was like certain theaters that I would perform in, and it just, the venues were not equipped for these bowls. And I'm like, how do I like take this on the road? Like, am I going to do small shows and just little yoga studios? Like, how am I going to do this? And my sister, right? I think my sister, she sent me a link to Wisdom. We went there, and the owners ended up being there, and then they're like, oh, they knew who I was. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to do something here. I want to do like a sound bath / concert / like visual thing. And like you said, they have these, like, it's an immersive experience where you just lay back, and it feels like you're in virtual reality, but it's real, it's reality. And because you're in a dome, it feels like you're traveling through whatever you're looking at. And I'm like, this is perfect for the bowls, because that's how the bowls make you feel, even without having a visual in front of you, or even when your eyes are closed. So we got together and we put this show together. I forgot to mention my sound bowl mentor. Her name is Geraldine Glass. She's amazing. She basically started to teach me about the healing aspects of these bowls and just music in general and sound in general. Something I'm still learning. I am still studying. And this experience, I knew that I wanted to travel with, and I just wanted it to be a part of all of my shows. So I started to bring like other smaller bowls to venues, even when they said like, this is probably not going to sound good. I'm like, let's just try. Like, at least we tried, and we can say that we tried. But yeah, I started having this idea of like, a lot of people listen to a lot of other types of music to like distract themselves, but that is no solution, to distract yourself. So I'm like, if I can give people experiences like this and music like this, that, you maybe you do want to just put it on to forget about what you're going through or whatever. But when you're listening, there's that intention there and that real healing in there that is really gonna resonate within your body and your spirit and actually help, and help center you or ground you or, whatever it is really that you turned on the song for. That's what it's gonna help.
Yeah, I recommend everyone go and watch the video and try and imagine you're in the experience.
Yeah.
Because I think, like I was saying this to you before we started, and I really do mean it, that when I started coming across mantra and frequency and vibration in these conversations around how healing could take place through music and through words and through language. Now, I can't sing to save my life. So I've always deeply prayed and wanted for incredibly talented musicians to hopefully one day use their platform to do that, because I just think that music's the most powerful thing in the world. And as you said, it can just be a distraction, or it can truly be something that deeply touches the heart and heals the heart even more than just touching. And to see you do it is just extremely hope-giving for me. And by the way, and it's different for different people. Like, and this sounds totally random and strange, but like for me, growing up listening to rap music was extremely healing. Because for me, being able to listen to someone who had a tougher experience than I did, but giving me the permission to be able to express how I felt. And so I would sit and write poetry or spoken word when I was younger. Again, I can't sing, but I would write and I would share and I would think. And I think even now when I journal or when I wrote my book or even when I do the podcast, for me, language is so powerful and words is so powerful. And when you put that to music or you put that to sound,
right,
it's out of this world. And so, yeah, I felt like that was a universal experience that you were putting people into. There's also the other one that I've used of yours before, which was the one that was for triggers.
Yes.
And that's another great example of how you're creating stuff that's very specific for people. Tell us about why you created that one and where that one came from.
So I was working on my album, which just means I'm living life and creating music at the same time. I was going through a period of time where I felt very triggered. And when I was at the peak of feeling triggered, I recorded a song called Triggered. And it was a freestyle. And I just kind of just like let it all out. And immediately after, I felt, a release, and I felt calm. And I was working with my sound bowls at the time as well. And I'm like, I'm going to do a mantra or a song. We call it modern mantra.
Yeah.
That can hopefully help people not reach that point of feeling enraged or chaotic or, out of control. Because I know for me, I can create a song when I'm feeling like that. But, other people need other outlets, or a lot of the times they will turn to music. My intention was to have it be, when you feel triggered, turn this on. And I use it for myself too. Like I still do, like on the plane and stuff like that. If I just need to calm down for anything, I'm like, oh, this actually is working. Because I got with my sound bowl teacher, Geraldine, and picked bowls that were very intentional, picked notes and alchemies of the bowls that were really going to aid in how it resonates within everyone that listens to it. So,
yeah, no, it works. It's awesome. Like I said, I've used it. I've shared it with people. I think it's beautiful. And again, if you're listening or watching, we'll put the links to all of this that I'm recommending, because I'd love for you to use it, and I'd love for you to share with Jhene and I on Instagram how you're finding it, because I think these are just really powerful tools. Like we always need something. I often say to people, like, when you're hungry, you don't panic because you know if you eat that you'll be satisfied. But when we're anxious, or when we're triggered, or when we're nervous, or when we're stressed, we just create more panic because we haven't yet found the tool, the substance, the mindset that satiates that hunger. And so, but we have to view it the same. There's no need to panic. It's about finding that. About finding that connection of what activity or mindset can help with that. Kind of circling back to you talking about your roots, and obviously this album being called Chilombo, which is your surname, your family name. It's interesting that we started talking about roots, and you can see that in your work again of going that. Tell us about the importance of using that name, and why that was so symbolic for you right now.
My father chose the name Chilombo for himself when he was in his 20s, I believe. And growing up, I don't remember when I learned that, but it was pretty early. And I don't know, it made me feel like disconnected from it. And then being in school, people would not really make fun of it, but they couldn't pronounce it. And so it was kind of just like always annoying to me. And I always would say, I can't wait to get married so I could change my last name. But as I got older, I really started to love it and love how it sounds and love how it looks. And I started asking my dad more questions about why he chose that name. And he has lots of different breakdowns of why he chose the name, the spelling, everything. And then doing my own research, I found out it was a word in, I believe it's pronounced Chichua. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's a language. It's an African language. And Chilombo means wild beast in that language. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that. I like that. And so for me, it was all kind of like a metaphor for me, like accepting myself and really acknowledging all the different parts of myself that make me who I am, and embracing my wildness and embracing all that I am. Whether people don't understand it, whether they can't pronounce it, whether they think that I'm not really connected to that last name because it's not, because my father chose it himself. So yeah, that was me just embracing all that I am. And the fact that it means wild beasts, I loved because I love dragons. I was born in 1988, which is the year of the dragon. And just dragons are like cool, obviously.
I always wanted to be in the year of the dragon. I'm 1987, so I just missed out.
Almost. But no, I think it's a beautiful creature, but it can be destructive, but it's also graceful. And I'm just like, yes, I feel like I'm all of these things. And I feel like Chilombo represents all of these things. And I feel like the album also represents all of these things. It's not just me pretending to be perfect and, I'm this healer, it's like I'm going through these real things and I'm dealing with them and I'm practicing how to heal. And it's just, all of that coming together is Chilombo.
That's a beautiful definition. I love that. Yeah, it's so interesting because I guess we live in a world of chosen names as well, whether people are actors or musicians or, you know, and the fact that your father chose a name, it is almost powerful to come up with our own names and our own identities, or because so often we don't feel connected,
Right.
or we don't have a vision or a symbol for who we are. And it's almost like getting closer to that is such a powerful thing, like, because we've realized that icons and symbols and visuals are so important in our lives, whether it's as simple as an emoji or whether it's a real, you know, it's a real emblem of who we stand for and what we are. Like, but we see mascots, we see that visualizing of who we are everywhere. And sometimes the only visual we don't have is of us.
Facts.
And, it's nice to hear that definition of Chilombo.
We also came up with, me and my dad, who I've gotten closer to as an adult. We came up with our own little breakdown of it. So chi is life, energy, force. L. So love.
Yeah.
The L is for love.
Yes.
The sound of the universe.
Yeah.
B, which comes from the foot in Egyptian hieroglyphics, is the base, foundation. And then O is everything and nothing, all encompassing.
Circle of life.
Yes, circle of life. And so that's how we broke down Chilombo, which you can find if you order a physical copy of Chilombo. We have like a little insert that like breaks it all down.
I love that.
Without all my extra words.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's so right. All of the breakdowns of it is perfect. It's got such a deep meaning, and I love that you said the physical copy, because I remember standing outside. We had a store in the UK where I grew up in London called HMV, and I remember like standing outside HMV to buy like the CD when it came out, and like I loved looking at artwork and just, you know, opening it up and seeing album covers and all of that. So I totally, when you said, yeah, get the real cover. And,
physical.
Yeah, the physical, there's definitely something in that. But that definition's so beautiful. We should create a beautiful Instagram. There must be an Instagram graphic that you've created for that.
There is. I did pass. I did post it.
The definition?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think I posted the actual graphic of what we put in the.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there's, you know, I like to, like you said, hold things and feel them.
Yeah. Talking about that, when you mentioned there being the sound of the universe, like, what do you think is a message that the universe has had for you over and over again that you've been learning?
Surrender. Let go. Probably, yeah. Which, same thing, but let go. And I'm constantly, because that's constantly in my head, but I don't think it's in my, I think it's coming from the universe. Let go and love. It definitely has an O in it. Let go or love. Just be. I think that I get a lot of messages from the universe. One thing that I used to do when I was younger that I didn't understand was probably considered now a meditation is I would sit in the sun because it felt good and just breathe. And every time after maybe 5 minutes, I would start getting these very clear, in my head, they were just like one-liners. You know, it would be like little quotes almost. Yeah. And I would be like, what? You know, it didn't feel like I was thinking of them. It just felt like they were coming to me. And it's something that I still do now, that just feel like little downloads from the universe, from the sun, from just the atmosphere. I don't know. So yeah, when I do that and when I'm really there in that moment breathing, it's just very clear messages that I usually write down. I used to tweet them at one point when I was younger, and then I felt like I couldn't give it away as soon as I got it. I had to like
process it
and meditate on it and really understand what does that mean. And so now I do that a lot more. I still write them down for myself, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that. When I'm hearing you speak today, like I feel like, and obviously this has taken work, but you feel very in touch with your intuition and your like inner voice. Tell us about that journey, because I think a lot of people who listen sometimes struggle with like, well, I don't know whether this is really my intuition or whether it's my ego or whether it's my inner voice or actually is it just my mind that's just tell us a bit about how you clarify the difference between the two for yourself and how you've become closer to your intuition.
Yeah. I think that is more of a recent development within myself. I think naturally when I was younger in like grade school, it was my intuition and I knew it. But as I got older and more jaded by life, the voices grew and they multiplied, and I just felt like, oh my God, I'm crazy, you know? And then in the line of work that I do, I just started to get a lot of anxiety about things and just really doubt myself. And I feel like people close to me recognize it. And me and my two friends, Ari and Felicia, we decided to go on a trip to the Esalen Institute. Have you heard of that?
I have. I haven't been there. But.
It's amazing. A little retreat. And she got me this book called, I think I remember the name of the book, Silencing Your Inner Critic. Because she was doing my makeup at the time, and you know, she would see me so stressed before shows or after shows, and I would be like, how was it? Like, oh, I felt like it, yeah, you know, I would just be like so frustrated. And we never talked about it. She just like gave me that book. So I'm like, oh, okay, you see that I'm dealing with something right now. And really that book had so many great points and really helps me realize that I'm not these voices. I'm the observer of these, you know, I'm listening. I'm not them, you know? And so from that point on of reading that book, I started listening to my thoughts differently and saying, oh, okay, hi, okay, that's fine. But, you know, you don't decide, you know, who I am or how I feel. And reading more books that are, you know, just started yours.
Thank you.
You're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Yes. He's been on the podcast too.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Becoming Supernatural. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Oh gosh, there's an audiobook that I'm listening to that I don't remember the name of right now, but just practicing, because I was once again realizing that the habit of listening to these voices in my head and letting them control how I feel about myself and how I move daily, I was mindful enough to see that it was not the best, you know, it wasn't the best practice. So now I just practice, you know, the right things. Now I practice doing things that I feel like are best for me and my development as a person. More audiobooks in the car opposed to music or no music.
Silence.
Silence.
I drive in silence all the time.
There's never really silence. Also, I realize there's always something going on, but that I love like natural sounds. It can be really hard though, and it's just something that you have to keep practicing.
We usually end every episode with something called the Final 5. This is a fast 5 round, which means every answer is either one word or one sentence maximum.
One word or one sentence.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
No.
I love the honesty. You're the only person who's ever said that to me. I love that. I love how honest you are.
Let me prepare myself for fastness. Okay. For speed. Okay. I'm ready.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Jhene, Aiko, this is your fast 5. The first question is, what has helped your mental health this year?
Sleep.
I love sleep. That is a great answer. I say that to people all the time. Literally, if we just slept well, go on. Yeah, Karen, you.
Rest.
Yes, rest.
So like sleep/rest. Because yes, I think a good sleep is like when you're really resting. And because, have you ever had like a sleep where you wake up and you don't feel like you were actually asleep?
1000%, yeah.
So, okay. Rest is what I would.
Wonderful.
I'll change it.
Second question. How do you personally refuel after pouring your heart into an album? What happened?
Sleep.
Sleep again?
How do I refuel? Okay.
Because I read that you were saying that you put your, you were like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like it's draining to create a work of art. Like you can say rest again. That's
how do I refuel? Honestly, rest.
Great. Okay, you can't give rest as the answer. That's another rule I should add to the Fast 5 about you can't give the same answer to more than one question. All right. Okay. Third question. What's the biggest lesson you've learned in the last 12 months? It's not rest. It's not. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. It can be rest.
The biggest lesson I learned in the last 12 months through difficult situations, when my energy feels all tangled up inside of me, is rather than try to get through it with that anxious energy, to slow down and to breathe through those moments. Something that I've knew sort of the idea of before and like read about, like, okay, but I think the last 12 months have really taught me that lesson, because I used to get really anxious and then it would just build on top of, the anxiety, the energy would just build on that, instead of me just saying, okay, let's bring it in, slow down. The biggest lesson, to breathe through it.
Question number 4. What's something that you're confident about that others may disagree with you on? Or something that you're sure about that other people may not wrap their head around fully?
There's nothing cuter, nothing more precious or magnificent as a cat. Cats are, and I mean felines, like lions, tigers, domestic house cats, jaguars, pumas, mountain lions, all of the cats they're the best.
Yeah, when you extended the family, I could get into
you see
it.
But that's what people don't understand about house cats, is that they're just little tigers and lions. Like, who doesn't want to experience that in their...
I always wanted a little cub, like always. So
get a cat.
Yeah, or just a lion cub. Yeah,
probably a cat.
All right, 5th and final question.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do this one fast.
Okay, if you could create one law that the whole world had to follow, what would it be?
It would be to share. Share your food, share your home, share your ideas, share everything. And it'll be always in exchange, and no one would go without.
That's a beautiful answer. Very unique. We've never had anyone say that. That's awesome. Everyone, Jhene, Aiko, Chilumba, the album. Please, please, please go and check out all the links that we're going to put into the bio here. Jhene, thank you. thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for
This
having
was
me.
so beautiful, so special.
Thank you.
I hope it's the start of a lifelong friendship. I
Yes,
look
me
forward
too.
to it. And I'm so deeply grateful to have had you on the show. Everyone who's been listening or watching back at home, or whether you're at the gym, or whether you're walking, or you're walking your cat or your dog. Please tag me and Jhene on Instagram and share what resonated with you, what connected with you. What is it that she mentioned that you're going to practice or try out in your life? We'd love to hear. We'd love to see that. And